what we're going to be looking at is our progressive presidents. A lot of these progressive presidents have read our Muckrakers and have the Muckrakers given us gore about what is going on in our society. And it's that gore that is going to lead these guys, our progressive presidents, Roosevelt, Taft, and Wilson, to do stuff to help the people. I have to talk about Roosevelt's background and how did he accidentally become president. Did we already talk about that?
Yeah.
So y'all know that what happens to his wife. His wife. His wife dies. His mom on what? Valentine's Day, and his wife dies in childbirth, right?
Yes.
And he goes where?
So like
Does he?
the West, right?
He goes to the West and he becomes a cowboy. When he's a cowboy out West, he meets a couple of guys, John Muir and Gifford Pinchot, and they talk about what is going on in the devastation in our environment. He comes back. He eventually becomes police commissioner, and he doesn't like the political machines. He also becomes governor of New York, and he starts becoming a progressive and regulating. He is a Republican. Do you think business like this?
No.
So the business asked the Republican Party to put him somewhere. Eventually, I'm going to talk about the Battle of San Juan Hill and the Secretary of Navy when I get to imperialism. But they want him to put him somewhere because he's regulating business. And the Republican Party is in the hands of who? Is
Business.
it business? And so they figured out where is a dead-end position for him.
Vice President.
They said vice presidency. No one would ever kill McKinley. McKinley is popular. Remember, we nearly had a class warfare in that election of William Jennings Bryan and William McKinley? He's at a fair, an anarchist shoots him. And now that cowboy is what? President. And he had been doing what with businesses? Regulating him. And so this is why Roosevelt will bring us into the progressive era, the accidental progressive. You have to understand his goals. He realizes from McKinley's death by an anarchist, right? Were there a lot of people who were against business? We go back to labor, we go back to the socialists, anarchists, the populists. There's a lot of people, and he wants to avoid a social revolution. And he says we could avoid a revolution if we have moderate reform. Who have we not been helping through the Gilded Age? The farmers, the laborers, the consumers. And so he really believes that we need to get well-trained people into politics. We need to educate the average citizen. We need to regulate industry because we really haven't regulated them. We've had the Sherman Antitrust Act, and did we even use it against them?
No.
We had the Interstate Commerce Act, and it didn't even do much. And so he's going to use the court. He's going to avoid using the court system. His methods. He's going to compromise with Congress. Today, most of us think, who is the head of the Republican Party today? Donald Trump, right? And that idea that the president is the head of the party starts with Roosevelt, because Roosevelt is going to take the Republican Party out of the hands of the political machines. And today, are the Democrats vying for who's going to be the head of that party in their whole town hall stuff? And so we're going to see that will start with Roosevelt. We're going to see he's going to become a hero to the people because he's going to champion their causes by reading the Muckrakers. We're going to see he's going to organize with special interest groups such as farmers and labor, and he's going to appoint his own men. So he's going to come with the square deal, and y'all saw this on your study guide. Who is the square deal for? It's for capital, and I don't know if y'all understand what capital means. Capital means business. So is he completely putting business out? No, he says we need to have a fair deal for you, for labor, and the public at large, consumers. So the first thing he's going to do is going to look at businesses, and he wants to regulate them. But the first time that he is going to actually do something comes with the coal strike. Do y'all know what coal is used for?
Heating stuff?
To heat. And there is going to be a strike in the middle of winter. The workers are striking for a 20% pay increase. Remember those little boys? They were making 60 cents a day. Most of our coal miners are making $1 a day. So how much of a pay increase do they want? 20 cents, right? They want an 8-hour workday. Do businesses want to do that? Because that means what happens to their profits. And so what we're going to see, TR is going to request that both of them come to DC. Usually in the Gilded Age, who did the government side with? Was it business or labor? This is a pot goal because this is the first time he's telling labor to come in, come and have a seat at the table. And they will negotiate because TR will threaten to take them over. They will get a 10% increase and a 9-hour workday. Wait, did labor finally get something? Had they been getting anything prior to this? And so we're going to see, because of this incident, we're going to see, and this was on our study guide, that the Department of Labor and the Bureau of Corporations will be created. The Department of Labor, its whole thing is to reconcile issues between labor and their business owners. The Bureau of Corporations is to look at people interchange in interstate commerce. Roosevelt is going to be a trust buster. So what he's going to look at is taking out trust. But he's going to look at the bad ones that want power and money. When we read The Jungle, was that meatpacking plant concerned with power and money? Yeah. The money thing is, were they doing good things with their food?
No.
Were they even doing good working environment conditions? So Roosevelt would have read that and says that's a bad trust. But he says good trust, such as U.S. Steel, that they treat their workers good, they treat the consumers good, get to exist. So is he taking out all trust? What we're going to see is he's going to get a couple of acts to aid them in taking out trust. The Elkins Act, which will get rid of rebates. The Hepburn Act, that gets away with free passes. And he's going to take down Northern Securities, which is the biggest railroad Mongol in the Northeast. Is he taking down trust? Is he taking down a lot? Is this more than the other people before him? Yes, but it's not a lot because he's the first. We read this last time, was The Jungle. Because of The Jungle, and y'all have both of these on your study guide, he's going to get the passage of the Meat Inspection Act that requires all meat involved in interstate commerce to be inspected, so that what won't be in it? Disease. What else won't be in it? Humans. What else won't be in it?
Dirt.
Scum, birds, dung, all this stuff that we saw, right? And then he also gets the passage of the Pure Food and Drug Act. It's going to require that, what do they do on the labels?
I have to put the expiration date.
It would have been very interesting to make a label for what came out of the Packtown, right? So we're going to get consumer protection. The other thing is we're going to get conservation. When Roosevelt went out west and he was a cowboy, he realized that, were we taking advantage of our environment? He's going to be shown this by Muir and Pinchot, and this is going to lead to the Reclamation Land Act, which sets 125 million acres away for the national parks, even though we already have Yosemite and Yellowstone around. He's going to authorize the government to collect money in the Newlands Act to create irrigation. So many of you have ever been to Northern California, and it's very lush in the Garden of Eden. That's because of the irrigation projects. Has Roosevelt been doing stuff? And so that's why in 1904 he's elected in his own right. There is a panic, and people blame it on him for regulating. Eventually, his legacy is that he enlarges the power of the presidency. Had we seen any of the Gilded Age presidents be active? What were they? Laissez-faire. We're going to see he shaped the progressive movement at the national level. He will also launch help for consumers and labor. And eventually I'm going to talk about him making the U.S. as a world power. Now I need to go to Taft. You should have seen this in the book. He's a round peg in a square hole. I've drawn a square hole right here and a round peg. Even though we know Taft is big, did he fit? No, he's going to fall short. Roosevelt felt that Taft, his hand-picked vice president, would be the good predecessor to his programs and that he would continue them out. But actually, Taft, yes, he's bigger, but he's going to be a bigger progressive. And he's going to be so much more of a progressive that it didn't even fill in the eyes of what Roosevelt thought he was going to do. Roosevelt, remember, he had the good, bad trust, that some trust could exist if they were good to their workers and good to the consumers. Well, Taft's going to believe that all trusts are bad, and he's going to bust up 90 trusts. One of them is because of his rule of reason that all trusts that interfere with interstate commerce are bad. He's going to take out Standard Oil. And a lot of it stems from Ida Tarbell's book that went around and chronicled what happened to her dad. She basically reveals in this book that Rockefeller's like Walmart. What does Walmart do with price?
Roll back.
They roll back, right? And so what happens to price? It goes which way? Down. Can anybody compete with them? This is what Rockefeller does. He goes into cities. He rolls back his price. And can the other people compete? So they have to go what?
Bankrupt.
Bankrupt. And then what does he do with their bankrupt businesses? He buys them out. And Ida Tarbell chronicles this through every single city he did this in. And now, does it show the deception? So after Taft reads the book, Standard Oil will be broken up. Then he goes after U.S. Steel. This was one that TR had said was perfectly fine. Is he going to get Roosevelt upset by breaking up U.S. Steel? Okay? Roosevelt said that this guy was supposed to be his handpicked predecessor. Is he being a round peg in a square hole? So there's other things that happen. I've talked about our amendments and how to memorize them, right? Yes, right? I've done the incoming senators don't drink with women who vote. We get the 16th and the 17th. There are two things besides the breakup of U.S. Steel that gets Roosevelt upset. One is the Payne-Aldrich tariff. Wait, which way do all tariffs go? Up to protect who? Business. This one's a pain in the butt, so which way do you think it goes?
General.
It's a pain in the butt for us. Up. Every single tariff in American history goes up except one. It's called the Underwood tariff. Just by its name, which way does it go? Under. Every single tariff goes which way? So who does it protect? And Taft had promised that he was going to lower tariffs, but he doesn't with this one. Is that going to get Roosevelt upset? So now there's two things to get upset. Now the third thing, and this was number 52 on your study guide. A lot of you left it blank. Here it is. So what is occurring is that Gifford Pinchot is, y'all don't have to write it down. Y'all left 52 blank, right? Right? Just, it's there. It's already written out for you. So Gifford Pinchot is the forest chief. And he gets upset with this guy named Bollinger. Bollinger just sold land that was supposed to be conserved. He sold it to business because they wanted the oil. Is this a scandal? So Bollinger is selling land that is supposed to be saved. Do you think the businesses are going to care about how to take care of that land? No. So Pinchot goes to Taft because Taft has hired Bollinger. And he yells at Taft because he's so passionate about the environment. Do you yell at your boss? So what do you think Taft's going to do to him? And this upsets Roosevelt. Roosevelt, does he feel that Taft is being a good president? He's just dismissed the guy that's passionate about the environment. What has he done with the tariff? And what did he do with the business that he felt was good? He broke it up. This is what's going to lead to our problem in our next notes. Did everybody pick up a Wilson notes? Okay, I'm going to focus on this because it's no longer in y'all's book. But there's a lot going on here. Y'all know this image. What is this an image of? What party is that supposed to represent? The Republicans. What is this an image of? The donkey, which represents and if you notice, the guy on this donkey is who? He has a little tail that comes out and identifies him. So Roosevelt is upset with the Republican Party because Taft has done what to the tariff? Raised it. What has he done with his friend Pinchot? Fired him. And what has he done with U.S. Steel? And he's upset because was he supposed to do that? So Roosevelt wants to challenge Taft for the nomination. There is no rule at this time that a president can only serve 2 terms. Roosevelt wants to challenge Taft because Taft has gone well and beyond and not done what he wanted. Do you think the Republicans nominate him? So Roosevelt goes and creates his own party called the Bull Moose. I don't know if you know what a bull moose is. Here is a bull moose. Who do you think people are going to, first off, what has just happened with the Republican Party? So who is that going to make him win? That's why Wilson wins the election. Roosevelt will go out and campaign. He's even shot, but he had his speech in his coat pocket. It was so thick, the speech, that the bullet, it barely grazes his skin. Okay? So now, this election is really between these guys. So I'm going to put them on a political spectrum so we can understand who this election is between. I want you to write this at the top of your notes. Okay, so can y'all tell me who are our extreme candidates? Just by the spectrum. Who are the people on the extremes? Eugene, he wants the government ownership of everything and equality amongst all the laborers. Who's the other extreme? Taft. So who is this election between? Because we always vote for the moderates, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem in today's election is that do we have some extreme candidates? Yes. And so is there anybody in the middle yet? And so this is why it's such a polarized election. But y'all know this election is going to be between who and who on this. And so we're going to look at their platforms and we're only going to write a couple of things on, do y'all see where it says new nationalism and new freedom on y'all's notes? Okay, we're going to write under new nationalism, is that the first one? Roosevelt wants to regulate big industry. So do y'all know what the word regulate means? Regulate, what does that mean? Control. He also wants to consolidate labor and trust. He wants the growth of regulatory agencies, women's suffrage, and minimum wage laws and social insurance. Are those some of the things that we have today? Is there a minimum wage? Okay. Wilson, on the other hand, wants fragmentation. Do y'all know what to fragment means?
Break up.
Break up. He wants fragmentation of big industry. He wants to break them up. If we break them up, does that lead to competition? If we break the businesses up, does that lead to competition? So what happens to price? He also wants small businesses, them to be unregulated, and he shuns social welfare. Okay, so why will Wilson win? We've already talked about this. What do we say from that image that happened to the Republican Party? Right, that's why Wilson won. The Republican Party split. And it said a progressive won. All of these guys are going to be progressives. Roosevelt was a progressive. Taft was a president. Wilson was a progressive. Eugene V. Debs, he was a socialist progressive, right? But they're all progressives. Okay, that's what you put. Why was it said a progressive won? What we're going to look at is this total. Would the Republicans won if they stayed together? Would they have won? If Roosevelt and Taft stayed together, would they have won? Yes. The only reason why Woodrow Wilson won was because the Republicans were split. Right? So there's a couple of things I have to talk about Wilson because we're going to be talking about Wilson not only in progressives and imperialism, but he's going to be the start of World War I. You have to understand that he's intelligent. His dad's a minister. He is a pacifist. Do y'all know what that word pacifist means? What does it mean? Against war. The irony is that he's going to take us into World War I. He's like halfway between the Bible and a dictionary, so he's really moral. And we're going to see that's one of the things that when we look into World War I is that he's basing it on moral stuff. And even when we go out in imperialism, he really believes in morals. Yeah, thank you. You have to understand, it is cold in here. I need to put my jacket back on. He's like a lot like Roosevelt and Taft. They have degrees in history, they have law degrees, and really he's moral. And so I'm going to look at his methods. He really, and this is something we're going to talk about when we get into World War I, that he really believes that he needs to go to the people. He has to talk to the people. And when Congress doesn't do what he wants, he will go to the people. Again, he will appear to Congress. Most presidents hadn't appeared to Congress since Jefferson. He's going to be partisan. He's going to bring the Democrats in. And we're going to see that he's going to have a very, keep the Congress strong and the court strong. I want to look at some of his cabinet appointments. Do y'all see that he appoints FDR as Assistant Secretary to the Navy? That's the cousin of Roosevelt, several removed. But they're two different. Theodore Roosevelt's a Republican and FDR is a Democrat. He also appoints William Jennings Bryan. Y'all remember him? Cross the gold, populist candidate, president, as Secretary of Navy. I want us to look at his first part of his presidency. Do y'all see that his first 2 years were fragmentation? And then he goes into regulation. Whose ideas is he stealing? He's stealing Roosevelt's ideas because he knows he's up for an election in 2 years. And if he takes Roosevelt's ideas, who is he hoping to attract to the Democratic Party? The what? What party did Roosevelt create?
Oh, boom.
The Blue Moose. That's why he takes on regulation. And you're going to see this in his policies. So what we're going to look at is what does he do in his first few years? He's going to take down the trust of the banks and tariffs. The Federal Trade Commission is created to start regulating interstate commerce, to looking at unlawful competition, false advertising. Didn't we see a lot of false advertising and mislabeling and alteration and bribery in that jungle? Yeah, he wants to give tougher teeth to the federal government to be able to regulate those bad trusts. He also is going to create the Clayton Antitrust Act. Wait, haven't we seen an antitrust act before? What was it? Sherman, but did it do much? So the Clayton Antitrust Act actually gives teeth to the Sherman Antitrust Act, and it also exempts labor from being a trust. We're going to see the Underwood tariff. Which way does that tariff go? Down. All other tariffs in American history go which way? We're also going to see that there's problems with the banks. And one of the big problems with the banks is the inelasticity of money. And I know that sounds weird, inelasticity. Okay, you will eventually discuss this in macroeconomics, but let me talk about what elasticity is. So y'all know like sweatpants, right? Mm-hmm. They have elastic bands, so what does that allow for your pants to do?
Stretch.
Okay, what happens if you don't have pants that have it? Do those pants stretch? They're what? Inelastic. Okay, so let's talk about this with money. When money is elastic, that means it could spread easily. When money is inelastic, can it spread easily? So when there's panics, I want us to think of Waxahachie at this time. Are we a big city or are we rural? Big city or rural? What are we?
Like if we were right now back then.
Back then, in 1900. We're rural. Hey, what would be the big city near us? So who would have more money in their city? Dallas. So they had elasticity of money. Did we have money? So let's just say we're in this panic and we're all farmers, but we all need to get stuff from each other and we don't have money. How would we get stuff? Trading, right? Hopefully she needs my corn and I need her meat, right? So I could trade. But this is what's going to lead that money, there is problems with this money, that it's inelastic. That wait, isn't this what the farmers were saying? That they could not get a hold of money, so they wanted what added into the money system? Silver, so we could have more what? Paper money. this comes back to that whole thing about being penny pinched. And so the Peugeot committee is going to make a recommendation that we decentralize the banking system. So let me show you what a decentralized banking system is. This is what it is. It is when we start creating, instead of having all of our money, where do you think most of our money was located? In the East Coast, right? And if we were over here, like big cities like Dallas and maybe Atlanta had money. But what happens if you're these farm communities? Was there much money? So what they did is they decentralized the banking system. Do y'all see the 12 different districts? Which district are we? Which one are we? 11. And so in these district banks, they're going to be in charge of looking over the money system. Have y'all ever noticed on y'all's money that there's little numbers on it? Like this one has 8. Where did this come from? St. Louis. Okay, this one has 7. Where did this come from?
Chicago.
Okay, this one has 12. Okay, each one of these districts is going to create money. What is these? And they're called notes, right? This is Federal Reserve note, because it notes that this has value. I could take this up back in the day to the bank and get what for it?
Gold.
Gold. But wait, what's going to happen when we don't have gold? What do I have to do with this money? Destroy it. Because if there's not enough gold, does this even have value? So one of the things that they realize is we need to be able to create more dollars in our banking system, but we need gold and silver. So the Federal Reserve is going to create a way to make money without having gold, and I'm going to show you that. But I'm going to talk about the Fed. They're going to oversee the 12 regional districts, and we're going to see they're going to be the bank for the bankers. I cannot go to the Fed and get an account there. We're also going to see is they're going to empower to issue these little notes that we just talked about, right? Y'all see at the top of your note, it's called a Federal Reserve note. The other thing they're going to do is they're going to increase or decrease the money swiftly. Wait, hasn't this what a group of people been asking for, the money supply to be increased? What group was that? What group was saying that we need to bring more money into our system? It's a political party. The populist. And they're going to do it by this way. Let me explain something. I'm going to come over here and talk about this and how we increase the money supply. I'm going to introduce some math. This is what macro is about next year. So let's just say Miguel deposits $100 in the bank. The Federal Reserve will set the amount of money that must be kept from the deposits in the bank vaults. So let's just say the reserve requirement is 10% of Miguel's $100. How much must be kept in that bank's vault? $10. So now this bank can loan out how much money? They have to keep 10 on hand. So 100 minus 10, how much can they loan out? 90. So Miguel deposited his $100. Now this bank could loan out this $90. They loan it to Jace. Jace takes out this loan. How much must they keep of the requirement?
10%.
Which is how much? 10% of 90 is 9. How much can they loan out now? 90 minus 9 is 81. So then Austin takes out this loan for $81, right? How much of 10% is that? How much can they loan out now? Wait, I want you to total this now. We don't even have to total it. We were struggling with our math earlier. That's a lot of money. Is this all new money? All stemming from what? The original deposit. Have they just created an inflation in our money system? Yes. Because did this need to have gold backing it? No. They could also deflate our currency system. Let me show you this. I'm doing more math. I'm sorry. Okay? $100 Miguel deposits. They're going to say the reserve requirement is 50%. How much must they keep on the vault?
$50.
How much can they loan out?
$50.
Okay, so they loan this to Jace. Jace takes out a $50 loan. Their reserve requirement is How much must they keep in the vault?
25.
How much can they loan out?
25.
So then Austin takes the $25 loan. How much must they keep in the vault?
12.5.
How much can they loan out?
12.5.
Is this a lot more or a lot less money created?
Yes.
So can they shrink the money supply? And can they expand the money supply? All without the dependency of what? Gold. Did we just solve the populist problems without a metal? And so this eventually should be able to prevent panics. But what are we going to have after? This is 1913. We're going to have the Depression because the Fed wasn't doing its job. Right? So they also said the discount rate is the interest rate that banks borrow from each other. And also they do the buying and selling of bonds, which is going to be really important in World War I. Because our government is going to need money from its people, and the Fed will negotiate these bonds. Okay, have we just figured out our money system problems that the populists have been asking our government to deal with? Okay, we're going to see that his second part of his administration is Wilson is going to become more liberal. Whose ideas is he going to be stealing?
What's it?
Roosevelt. He's going to do the Lafayette Seamen's Act that gives a livable wage to seamen. He's also going to do workman's compensation. Was he even for that? This was Roosevelt's ideas, that those men, if you're harmed on the job, you will get taken care of. Child labor. He gets rid of in interstate commerce. And the Adamson's Act, he creates an 8-hour workday. He's stealing Roosevelt's ideas to get his voters. We are going to see he will appoint the first Jew on the Supreme Court. We get the 18th Amendment, which is prohibition, the 19th Amendment, which is women's suffrage. All of these are a lot more progressive because who is he trying to appeal to?
Boom.
The bull moosers. There is some failures of the progressive era. We're going to see that Jim Crow laws will be accelerated at the national level. We're actually going to start restricting immigrants from America in the 1920s. And our radical groups will not be recognized.